Hello there everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Chaos Roundup for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now this week I'm doing things a little bit differently because we actually have 3 events to cover over the course of this week, which are Porom's Lost Chapter, Caius' event, and Dimensions End 10. But because there's quite a lot of content there to digest in one video, and because I am particularly proud of my clear for Dimensions End 10, I'm actually going to put that in a separate video just straight from my stream so that you guys can watch that separately, because I cleared Dimensions End 10 with Gilgamesh, Leo, and a 0 out of 3 Selphie on a stream, and it was an absolute riot. So I very much encourage you guys to go and check that video out as well as the clears for this one. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Before we get started on the main clears, I would like to invite you guys to have a look at my social media accounts in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch and Discord. On Twitch this Sunday, in fact, I have a massive stream for 12 hours for Opera Omnia that is going to be playing through the game in what we're calling offline mode, which means playing through the game with no pulls whatsoever, no elements of gacha related to the game whatsoever, and seeing how far we can get with just Lost Chapter weapons, power tokens that are given to you within the game, things like that. So it'd be really great if you guys could come and support that particular stream on Twitch this Sunday. And of course, every time I release a video, I shout out one of my patrons at random so that I can give a massive thank you to each and every person that supports the channel as much as they do. And today that person is going to be Impulse X, who is a relatively new patron on the channel, so thank you ever so much for joining in with that. If you would like a bespoke title card made for you just like Impulse here, then definitely have a look at Patreon as well. And of course, don't forget to check out all of the websites that are related to Opera Omnia and all of the other content creators as well, as all of us would love to get your support just as much as me. So we're going to start up with Porom's Lost Chapter. Now this was an event I was actually expecting to be an awful lot harder than it was, thanks to the Hollow Riders and their ability to kind of just deal a large amount of HP damage in a short space of time. And I was sitting there kind of worrying, going, oh no, with their max HP debuffs, things like that, I really need somebody to replace Porom in this particular state. However, by taking Hope, Gilgamesh and Yuri, I kind of feel that I have all of my bases covered. And Hope, honestly, I know I talk about Hope an awful lot on this channel, but there is a reason for that. He is extremely powerful, and with there being 3 bosses there, you can actually deal an absolute megaton of damage with all 3 of these characters, with them having a large amount of AoE capabilities, Yuri having crystal power and then his 100% AoE EX attack, Hope having 100% on his EX attack and splash damage on his regular HP, and then Gilgamesh having Wild Dance and Hurricane. All of them deal massive amounts of AoE damage, and because you get such good Brave regens and Brave batteries out of Yuri and Hope, Gilgamesh is actually dealing a pretty substantial amount of damage with his Wild Dance and his Hurricane EX. So while you've got all this massive amounts of damage, you also get quite a lot of defenses as well. Predominantly through Hope, because Shun and Protect are just very useful to have. You get healing capabilities out of Last Resort, but I often find that Last Resort on its own isn't usually enough to heal a party by itself, and because these guys tend to deal a lot of HP damage and they've got their max HP down debuff as their primary kind of shtick within this fight, you really want to make sure you have healing on all hands on deck, essentially, as much as you can. Yuri actually provides that as well, with a massive HP and Brave regen through Chelinka and the buff that you get out of Clavashian's sword. So these 3 actually gelled really well together, and we all know how much I adore using Yuri, Hope and Gilgamesh, so it's quite nice that these 3 all paired up as well as they did. The first wave in this fight is the 3 wars, so you get the Commander Wolf and the 2 mini ones, and honestly, as long as you're dealing a large amount of AoE HP damage, these shouldn't prove too much of a problem for you, but they can speed up to a point where they can overwhelm you if you're not careful, so just make sure that you're breaking things in the correct order. Make sure that the last enemy on the timeline is the first one that you break, so that you're breaking things sequentially and making sure that any enemies that are out of order line up nicely, so that you are in fact delaying the party while you're breaking them, rather than just kind of shuffling the turns around. It doesn't work very well that way, and that is a tip that you can take to any boss fight, event, anything like that that has more than one enemy. Make sure that you're breaking things in the correct order. Now, I actually took an Aranea friend here, but you'll notice while watching this, I never actually used her. The party composition was so strong and so sort of forthright in its ability to keep itself alive and defensive, then, you know, Aranea wasn't really necessary, and taking a friend unit didn't really help me because I had so much AoE damage already. But Aranea probably still is the best friend unit you could take for this, because the enemy is not resistant to ranged or anything like that. So you're going to have the delay capabilities, you're going to have the large amounts of AoE damage, the re-breaks, all sorts of things like that. So Aranea probably is the strongest friend unit I would recommend for this particular event. In all honesty, if you wanted to make this event particularly easy on yourself, and being a Lost Chapter event, these tend to be slightly easier than the sort of main events for new characters, just take an Aranea with you if you have her, take Ultimisia with you if you have her, and then a really strong support character like Hope or Penelo, and you will demolish this event. They won't even get much of a turn for you to do anything with, because Ultimisia will be just dealing like large chunks of AoE damage, and then you've obviously got Aranea doing the same thing, and then Hope doing the same thing, or Penelo making sure that no one's getting hurt. It's just going to work really well for you. If you wanted to, you could bring large-scale AoE damage with Onion Knight, because Porom is a synergy character this event, the Hollow Riders are actually weak to ice, so that's a character that you could consider because he has large amounts of AoE damage and the ability to sort of, hone in on one particular enemy and focus on them by going into his ninja mode. But Sage mode is definitely what you want here, and having Blizzard enchant across your party will actually do really well. I took advantage of this in a different way by using Yuri, because he has Imperil, and obviously his attacks are holy as well. Alternatively, tanks actually work very well here. The majority of the Hollow Riders' attacks are all physical, so Galuf will work very well here. Zac will also work by making sure that everybody is attacking him, although do bear in mind that these enemies do like to relieve themselves of debuffs in a lot of ways, so just make sure that they're locked onto the right character, or that you're not getting hit at times you don't want to be, so make sure that your support character is able to keep your bravery up where possible. But Apocalypse is still going to be really helpful, and Zac is still going to hit like a bus, and for the majority of the fight, he's still going to be able to ward characters onto himself. Warrior of Light, alternatively, will fulfill a very similar function. Also, one character I did want to point out for this event and for Caius is Lan and Rain. Lan and Rain actually take advantage of a lot throughout this week. So when you've got this event, there's 3 enemies, they're all weak to ice, and you have ice attacks that deal 100% AoE damage at any given point, and you've got imperils for every other element through his EX, so that you're able to do all sorts of massive amounts of damage through their EX. And it's just, honestly, they're a really strong character to take for both this and Caius' event. But by and large, with this event being a Lost Chapter, as I said earlier, it's actually not as difficult as it sounds. Just make sure your health can stay up as high as it can, and make sure you have the ability to heal, because these guys will deal a lot of HP damage, and they will also deal it in doubles, so as long as you're able to not have to rely on Last Stand or anything, then you should be fine, because when they use their AoE Brave HP attack, it hits twice to kind of get around Last Stand. So do bear that in mind, and just keep that heavy AoE damage coming, and you'll be absolutely fine. Considering the fact that these events tend to take an awfully long time, and I don't want to speed up the particular video that you can see just there any faster, it's already at like 2.5 times speed, so if I speed it up any faster, it's actually just going to be difficult to see what's going on at all. But I did want to quickly ask you guys how you felt about the formatting of videos recently. Obviously this week I tried changing my videos back to having the title Should You Pull, and then separating them so that they covered each banner individually as they came out, as opposed to one large video at the start of the week and then one video for my Chaos Clears at the end of the week. I still want to feature my Chaos Clears where possible, so if I can, then I will still upload all these obviously videos on a Friday that will contain all of my Chaos Clears. But that being said, it's quite difficult to kind of keep on top of 4, 5, 6 videos a week. It's, so I was curious as to how you guys felt about the formatting of videos. Do you prefer things this way? Do you prefer things the way they were? Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and I shall leave you with the rest of this clear before we move on to Caius' event. So now we move on to Caius's event. Now Caius's event was one I was actually really worried about when I was making my Should You Pull video for Caius, because I wasn't sure I was fully grasping the mechanics of this fight. And the first time I went in blind, I took Galuf and Hope and Serah. Now, I went in blind, not realizing that I didn't actually equip any artifacts onto Hope, and I hadn't finished my summon boards on Galuf, so that should give you some indication on where I went with it the first time around, because I'd already farmed artifacts for Hope after Porom's event and then forgotten to change them over, which is a little bit embarrassing while I was doing that on stream. But I had a Galuf with 0 out of 3, and I was 1 turn short of being able to kill the event and get all the score and everything. So this is actually my second run that you're seeing here, using exactly the same characters. My first run as well, I used a Setzer friend unit. Do not take Aranea as your friend unit or in this event whatsoever. The enemies are resistant to ranged and they are very difficult to break. So don't take Aranea to this particular event unless you've got a very focused strategy involving her, because it's just not going to work. You'd have to imperil something, make sure you're hitting the metal drum enemy that doesn't have a shield. It's very awkward. Just don't take her. It's not worth it. But in the second run, I actually took Leo as a friend unit on advice of my stream audience, and it worked brilliantly because the first enemy took me a little too long to kill in the first wave for the first time around that I tried to do the event. But the second time around, I just used Blade Block once to set Galuf up ready for the next wave, and then I switched him out for Leo and just Master Blade spammed the heck out of it. And then because I had Serah doing batterying, Hope doing batterying, and loads of damage coming from all of them, I actually killed the first wave quickly enough so that when I went into the second wave, Leo's debuff actually triggered on one of the metal drums. And this actually proved to be extremely valuable throughout the fight, because it meant that Galuf was doing more damage with his counters. It meant that Hope was doing more damage generally because his Retributive Blast could target one enemy for bravery damage and then have the extra little bit of splash damage on the side. So for those 6 turns of the enemy having the Precision Strike debuff, it actually gave me a huge head start as to whether I could just get the damage in, because the only thing that was worrying me with this event was being able to clear it in time. If you have Galuf, this event is not scary at all. Every attack the enemies do are physical. So you're just going to dodge and counter literally everything that's not AoE that they do. The only time you'll ever have to be frightened if you bring a Galuf with you is if you kill one of the enemies before the other one, because it enrages them and then they start spamming AoE brave HP attacks. So make sure, like with many events with multiple enemies, that you're killing them at the same time or as close to the same time as possible so that you don't end up ruining your run at the very last minute. So the main gimmick of this particular fight is that the metal drums put up a shield after a certain period of time that's very similar to Zack's shield, in that if you're dealing under a certain amount of damage that's in relation to their initial bravery, you don't deal damage to them at all. This makes it so that they are very, very difficult to break, and because their initial bravery is as high as it is, it's very difficult for you to break them pretty much at all. So bringing characters on like, you know, Lightning or Aranea or Vayne or anything like that, it's not quite as smooth running for those characters as it usually is, which quite frankly makes a nice change of pace. I chose to bring Serah with me for this event because the enemies are actually immune to poison and sap, which is cheeky because obviously when you can't damage them through bravery attacks, they're just going to keep gaining it. However, they are not weak to Ultima Arrow. They are not resistant to Ultima Arrow, which means that I can deal 100% AoE damage at a regular flow. I've got debuffs on them to make sure they're not hurting me quite as badly, and I'm getting lots of nice buffs from her. And then you've obviously got Hope and his defensive buffs, making sure that they're not dealing too much damage to me. Because of this particular team composition, Hope is just a good character at this point. Everyone knows it. I've used him a ton already since getting him. In fact, I don't think I've used Lightning once since getting her, and I've actually used Hope in pretty much everything, so that's an interesting point. But honestly, I was in no danger of getting killed just by having Galuf and Hope with me, and Serah was making it so that their Brave gain wasn't too scary when it came to them using their AoE attacks. And honestly, it was very smooth running from that point on, because I'd used Leo to kill that first wave really quickly. I didn't have to summon until near the end, at which point I was just going 100% AoE, 100% AoE, 100% AoE, and they just went down pretty quickly. Now obviously if you don't have the same characters that I have here, then perhaps this event might be a little bit more difficult. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of other non-synergy characters that work well here, because the main thing that this fight revolves around is that shield, and the main thing you're supposed to do with that shield is bring Caius along and use Doom to just break it off of them. If you have Caius, this event is an absolute cakewalk, honestly. If you don't have Galuf, then Warrior of Light and Zac equally work very well here, as long as you bring somebody along to protect your other characters from being attacked, because some of their bravery attacks do hit very hard, and you want to bring characters that aren't quite so reliant on their attack stat, because both of the enemies bring a frame buff that lowers the attack of your party in a very similar vein to what Vayne or Gilgamesh does. You want to make sure that you're not too reliant on your attack stat. And this is why characters like Serah and Hope, you could bring honestly just 3 support characters that battery each other. As long as you've got some poison or some way of mitigating HP damage, then you'll do well here. So bringing a tank along like Warrior of Light, Zac or Galuf will be absolutely invaluable here. In place of Serah, I've seen a lot of people use Vanille because bringing a Dispeller along makes it so that you're able to get rid of that frame buff. It's not going to get rid of the shield, but it's still very useful to have. And because if you're not bringing Galuf, you're not necessarily bringing the counters along, by having the Assassination debuff on Vanille, you're able to deal some extra damage here and there. Don't bring a ranged character like Balthier because they resist it and it's not going to work very well. If you wanted to bring somebody other than Hope, then honestly, literally any support character will work here. Penelo will work equally well. I compare Penelo to Hope very frequently, and it's because I really enjoy the way that both of these characters have one battery ability that is instantaneous and gives you another turn straight away, and another one that doesn't. It allows you to play with turn manipulation in a magnificent way. So these 2 characters are probably my most recommended when it comes to a support character. But equally, if you wanted to wait, then Aerith would work very well. Selphie would work very well. There's all sorts of different support characters you could bring along to just try and make sure that your bravery stays as high as possible. And then the last character that I want to mention here is the same as the last character I wanted to mention for Porom's Lost Chapter, which is Lan and Rain. This is really Lan and Rain's week, to be honest, because having AoE 100% HP damage across all the board, and having access to Imperils, and their EX instantaneously breaks all enemies when you cast it, so that's something that you can use to get around the shield, and no other character can really do that. Like, Kefka kind of can, but Kefka's EX is actually not really strong enough at this point. We're waiting for him to get his realization. So if you don't have Caius and you want to bring that instant break mechanic along with you, Lan and Rain's got you covered, and they've got a lot going for them in terms of damage. Like I said, you've got the Imperil, you've got the 100% on every attack you do. It's just a very strong coupling to bring with this to this particular event. The other mechanic that I think works very well here before I leave this particular event is actually gravity-based characters. So the reason that Noel is a synergy character for this fight, despite the fact that he can't really break enemies as frequently as he would like and his entire thing is attacking broken characters, is because he has gravity-based attacks and he has wind elements in some of his moves. So if you can bring a gravity-based attacker like Bartz or Exdeath or even Gilgamesh to some extent, you could actually get around a lot of the fact that they bring such high bravery to some of their attacks and you can't get rid of it as easily. Exdeath is actually perfect for this because you can just straight up just reduce their bravery to 0 without having to worry about breaking them. They can't be broken anyway, and you've got that lovely HP poison drain that's going on all the whole time while you're doing it. So if you've got Exdeath and you want a reason to use him, this is a great place to do it. So that's going to be the end of this particular video. However, as I said earlier, I'm posting my Dimensions End Entropy Tier 10 run on a separate video, and I'm actually just going to post it as it was through the stream, and I really, really hope that you guys enjoy it because I absolutely loved taking this particular team through Dimensions End 10. Admittedly, I did have to use a few resets, and I got pretty jammy with a couple of death claws here and there, but god damn it, I have proven Gilgamesh's worth, and all with a 0 out of 3 selfie while I was at it. So if you wanted to check that video out, I very much encourage you to do so. But in any other case, then I would like you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications and all that other YouTubery stuff. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that it's helped you get your own clears for these 2 particular events. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.